Good evening. Today is the 14th day of January 2016, and we are continuing with our explorations in Savitri, as always with our brother Alok. Today I'm going to read something different from Nolini. How to understand Savitri. To understand Savitri, the best way, paradoxical though it may seem, is not to try to understand it, to refrain from effort, all mental effort to understand it, and instead to let it enter into your consciousness and illumine it. Savitri is not dead matter, a dictionary of ideas and images. It is a living scripture, a concentrated block of consciousness. All writings, in truth, contain the consciousness of the writer, and on the strength and quality of the consciousness of the writer depends the worth and force of the writing. That is the meaning of the Grantha Puja of the Sikhs. Even without reading a scripture, by an intense concentration and aspiration, you can establish an inner contact with the consciousness of the writer, with the consciousness concentrated in the book, and get the benefit. This is true especially of spiritual writings. Savitri is a living and concentrated embodiment of Sri Aurobindo's consciousness. His light and knowledge are there, always present and active. To read Savitri, you need to establish a contact with that, with the consciousness behind the words. You need to develop a sort of inner sense. The images described in the poem are not mere images. Sri Aurobindo saw them. In his vision, they were living things, living realities, and you should also see and feel them as such. And that is possible only if you fulfill two conditions. First, the outer mind must be calm and still. And second, when you read, you must be in a state of consciousness which is the highest and best in you. Fulfill these conditions, and then you will truly understand and know. The Indian system of learning, or initiation in learning, means this awakening of consciousness, the awakening to a new inner contact with the object of knowledge. Today we begin Book 2,
Canto.
the Kingdom of the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds, and Canto, where are we? Canto 4, yes, Canto 4. The Kingdoms of the Little Life. Very strange area, isn't it?
Before we start, what you read from Nolnida reminded me of a real incident which collaborates or corroborates exactly what he has written. So I was posted in Patiala, and every night at 10 o'clock we used to read Savitri, myself and Kavita, and because that was the only time. The rest of the day either it was work in office or work at the center. So one day it was a house in which we were tenants to a Sikh gentleman. I spoke about Granth Puja and getting in touch without really reading it. So one day this gentleman came and asked us that, every night you seem to be reading something. What is it? So my first impulse was that perhaps it's too late and this is a thin wall separating and the gentleman may be getting disturbed. So half apologetically I started saying, that's the only time we get to read together and it's some book, Then, he almost cut short the conversation. He said, no, it's very nice, but I just want to know what you're reading. So I pointed toward the meditation hall. We had a small meditation hall, and I said, the book is there. So he went, opened, took the book in his hands, turned it here, there, opened, and obviously he sensed it is beyond anything he could, even remotely connect with. So he kept it, and then he came out. Then I asked him that why anything in particular, like why is he curious to know? He said, no, I don't know what you read, but obviously you are reading and something comes through. But what I have observed is that since the time you are reading, my back pain has disappeared and my son's asthma has disappeared. Now, obviously, I am not saying this to perpetuate a story of miracles, but this is a real hard fact, which he came and told me that, since the time you are reading it, my chronic back pain and my son's asthma, they have disappeared. Much later, I did read something which the mother says Savitri has a healing force in it. And I had this evidence with quite a few persons. In one person, it was not healing, it changed my understanding of healing in a new way. Because there was a lady who opened towards Savitri towards the end of her life, when she was already invaded by malignancy. And she died. But throughout that period, she was reading Savitri. And the kind of change that took place in her inner being and the way she died itself a marvel. So healing, very often we think that healing is equivalent to all your so-called symptoms and diseases disappeared. But healing is a much deeper and inner process. And when mother says that, Savitri heals you, she is referring to a totality. So anyways, that's a whole subject and I would not want to get into it right now. But what we read last time was that how life left the power of life. There are 4 godheads which rushed from the Supreme to create. Light, life, consciousness, truth. So life rushed down from its supreme glory, its heights, to create because it has the mandate, the command. But as it enters the inconscient, it undergoes an evil transmutation. As if a spell is laid, boundaries are fixed, and it finds itself in a prison. It's so strange. It is as if, though it has the powers, yet it has no powers. It's like when you go to a prison. You may be a king, but in a prison you have no powers. You are a prisoner. So you can't say, I am a king, therefore people should obey me. No, in the prison you are a prison till you are serving that sentence. So now we have very naturally, because last time we read about the evil spell, such was the evil mystery of her change. So life has changed into something else.
It's interesting also in book 6 when Narad comes down and he's singing first of all these beautiful things, and then as he descends,
he speaks about the pain, the descent of Godhead, the Asuras weeping, their aspiration, because this is the sphere. So, that also connects with what we read about Nalnida, that the state of consciousness is so important in whatever we do, including when we read Savitri. So, it depends on the state of consciousness. If it is clouded, fuddled, full of all kinds of doubts, then when we read a scripture, we pick up precisely those points which will raise more doubts. So we have seen people, mother says so, but because the mind is befuddled. But if you keep the mind relatively quiet, absolutely quiet mind comes by grace or intense yogic effort, then the real meaning appears as if it was hidden right there, round the corner. But we couldn't see it because we had turned and we were looking in another direction. So, that's the beauty. So we see how this 3rd canto slips into the 4th. The Kingdoms of the Little Life, Book 2, Canto 4. A quivering, trepidant, uncertain world, born from that dolorous meeting and eclipse, appeared in the emptiness where her feet had trod. A quick obscurity, a seeking stir. So we have already been told about this, this word that conveys, that dolorous meeting. The previous canto has ended with that dolorous meeting, where life has entered into inconscient, and this is the meeting of something from above and the darkness from below. And we see that, how when supramental force came down, and mother says, I saw blue waves from the inconscient rise up and swallow it. This is the first reaction. Matter doesn't accept, nature doesn't accept, it takes it as an interference. Even nature didn't accept it. So mother has to go and cajole nature that, look, why don't you accept this new force? No, I want to play, I am enjoying my play. I don't want to play with this new, what is it? I don't like it.
It will come in time.
Come in time.
Give me millions
So
of
mother
years.
identified with nature, understood the play,
Yes.
and started bringing in this new element to make nature conscious that this is going to make your play even better and more enjoyable.
Yes.
Then she accepted. That's where the message of 1958 came in, that nature has agreed to collaborate. So the first response, however, is that such a great force, it came down and matter swallows it, keeps it in the womb. And there are so many stories which indicate that. I mean, story of Christ comes to give freedom and liberation, but becomes a captive, is made a captive. He is put on the cross, and yet because the power of the divine love is there, it will burst forth, even through the body on the cross. So this is how it takes place, that first it is swallowed, and then later on it bursts forth.
Where her feet had trod.
Yes.
Her feet. Life's feet.
Life's feet.
Life's feet.
So what happens there, wherever she has passed by, slowly there comes a quiver in the sand.
Yes.
So you have the writhing worm, the life in the
Yes.
grass and the algae and the moss, breathing life appears. There was a writhing of half-conscious force, hardly awakened from the inconscient sleep, tied to an instinct-driven ignorance, to find itself and find its hold on things. The life of the worm, the insect, the serpent, hardly awakened from the drowse. All that it knows is the instinct to eat, to survive, to mate and to sleep. There is nothing else. That's what its activities are. And yet, within it is that same glory. It's nothing else. That glory has gone and hidden itself in matter. So, how beautiful this is. Now, wonderful line, inheritor of poverty and loss. Again we see Sri Aurobindo's marvelous combination of phrases. We normally talk about inheriting richness, but we hear inheritance of poverty and loss. At the same time, he indicates what really is poverty. Poverty is not to be aware of your own divinity. So it has inherited poverty and loss. Poverty through loss. It is life divine which has descended in the worm. But what has happened in the process, it has lost it. And what remains is only a quivering little insect.
But later on we see...
Yes, he will reveal how...
that even in the worm prepares
Yes,
the coming God.
Yes, in the worm foresees the coming God.
Yeah.
So that's his poem, God. Inheritor of poverty and loss. Actually, this is a very touching line, and maybe applying at several levels. The divine touch when people receive, and when they lose it, there is no greater misery than that. Not to receive the touch is misery, but still there is chance. Of course, there is always a chance, but to receive the touch and lose it. That's why in Hour of God, Sri Aurobindo says, but thrice woe to those who are strong and ready, yet misuse the force or waste the moment. For them is irreparable loss and great destruction.
Yes.
So suddenly the insect world wakes up to the loss. It doesn't know that it has lost. That makes it even, worse kind of ignorance. Assailed by memories that fled when seized. Always, there is something in it. Where is the insect crawling? Where is humanity going across, when you see the hustle and bustle of the cities? Where is it going? What for? What is going on in the head? And the moment it seizes it, it flies away. This is the little life. Haunted by a forgotten, uplifting hope, it strove with a blindness as of groping hands to fill the aching and disastrous gap between earth pain and the bliss from which life fell. And this little life is there from the worm to man. groping, trying to seize. Maybe here I'll find that joy. Maybe there is the bliss.
And somehow it knows
Yeah.
because it's haunted by it.
Haunted by it. But the moment it catches it, it's like sunlight. It's wonderful as long as you are in it. But if you want to hold it in the hollow of your hand, gone. Water, air, try to catch it and it's gone. So that's how it tries to seize and loses it. And therefore we have a world that ever seeks for something missed, hunts for the joy that earth has failed to keep. Somewhere, in some market, in some person, in some philosophy, maybe I'll get that. Hunts for a joy. Too near to our gates, it's unappeased unrest, for peace to live on the inert, solid globe. So there are only two kinds of peace. The peace of the dead inert, what is called in Sanskrit as Shava, dead. Or the supreme peace, Shiva, the peace that is in the absolute. In between there is unrest. And this unrest is because such a tremendous power has come and is near.
Yes.
And it's haunting us. And we are trying to catch it. And therefore peace has been rightly forbidden till we find it. Otherwise we would be like inert stone.
I think Christ used the term the peace that passeth all
understanding. Absolutely. It has joined its hunger to the hunger of earth. So because of this, there is this intense craving. Hunger at all levels. That's why it is called hunger that is death. This constant want, craving, it's never satisfied. If you really once, it's a very strange thing. If we calculate the amount of food that we dump into our system, it's shocking just to imagine tons and tons on tons
in a lifetime.
And just it creates what? A fragile little being 5 feet 6 inches. That's all. What happens to the rest? Waste, and again hunger. And Upanishads call it a hunger that is death, because it ends up feeding death. So where does this hunger come from? It comes because this life is imprisoned inside and it gnaws at the heart of matter. Because it is within, we seek it outside and we don't find, and we seek more and we don't find. It goes on. So look at this line. It has joined its hunger to the hunger of earth. It has given the law of craving to our lives. It has made our spirits need a fathomless gulf. That is why until we find the divine life, there is not going to be any permanent solution. It will always be a half-baked solution where we find temporarily we are happy, but again, we'll seek it, because until we rediscover that life which has fallen from its absolute glory and supreme status, we cannot rest. An influence entered mortal night and day. His shadow overcast the time-born rays. In the troubled stream where leaps a blind heart pulse, and the nerve beat of feeling wakes in sense, dividing matter's sleep from conscious mind, there strayed a call that knew not why it came. This is the power of life. Like an isthmus, it joins the mind and matter, dividing the two, and it has created this sense of hunger and craving and seeking and longing and all its after effects. A power beyond earth's scope has touched the earth. And this happens always. We read in Savitri in the very beginning that Savitri has come, woken up among these tribes. She has come with a vast heart, and she wants to implant the greater truth upon earth and to acclimatize everybody to heaven air.
Yes.
But then Sri Aurobindo shows the mood of the earth. And then he says, hard is it to persuade earth nature's change. Mortality bears ill the eternal's touch. So what it returns is
It feels
cross.
the pure intolerance of that fire.
Divine intolerance.
And it murmurs at its sorrowless
That's
happiness.
It's
Sorrowless
assault
happiness.
of ether and of fire.
Yeah.
It finds it as an assault. Murmurs at its sorrowless happiness. With scorn treats and then he ends so powerfully that cross in payment for the crown.
They gave.
The divine comes to give the crown of Godhead to us. We hand over to him the cross. This is
That's our payment.
our payment. So this is how always this power that comes, which is from far beyond, and what happens in earth nature. A power beyond earth's scope has touched the earth. The repose that might have been can be no more. A formless yearning, passions in man's heart, a cry is in his blood for happier things. So, but not all is wasted. The very fact it touches the heart of earth, it awakens a longing.
Yes.
There is, when Sri Aurobindo speaks about the 4 great events in the history of earth, and he speaks about, of course, the Trojan War, and then he speaks about the crucifixion of Christ, and he says how, Christ from his cross humanized Europe, and then he speaks about Krishna's exile from Vrindavan and the colloquy on the battlefield. Now, the interesting part is when he speaks about Krishna's exile from Vrindavan, he says it created devotional religion. Before that, we had only knowledge and karma. If you read the Vedas and Upanishad, there is stress on jnana and then something on karma. But not karma as a service and love and. But Sri Krishna, by withdrawing himself in the middle of all that yearning and passion, suddenly the gopis and the heart of the earth is left with a deep longing. And that longing we inherit thanks to that moment.
Yes.
And we long for the divine. So even when the divine afflatus withdraws, spent, it awakens in the heart a yearning. And that yearning is the seed of what will be.
Even when it's unwanted.
Even when it's unwanted, it seems to fade away. So not all is lost, and that's why he says that once it has happened, the repose, look at the beauty of this line. The repose that might have been can be no more. That repose of the inertia. Yeah. Now it cannot be. So we are bound to be driven by all kinds of things until we get on back to the straight sunlit path.
Ignorance can't be bliss.
Can't be bliss. Can't be bliss. It is bliss only till bliss has actually touched it.
Yes.
The moment it touches, then it recognizes,
Yes.
Oh, there is something else known as bliss. Yeah. And then you have no rest, when this after going from Pondicherry for the first time, I remember it was such a sad thing. Now imagine coming to such a beautiful place and everybody, what has happened? I said, it was till we knew that there is a place like this, we didn't know what it means to miss a place. Because it was all very fine, wherever you were happy and adjusted, you found new people. But after having come here, it was so difficult because now all the time, you try to make food like the dining room, you fail miserably. You try to create an atmosphere and you fail miserably. You end up saying, look, this is non-replicable. Like Savitri is non-translatable. Yes. So, yes. Once it has come and touched you, it is bound to eventually awaken an aspiration and a longing. And often I say, this is the reason why Mother and Sri Aurobindo have withdrawn behind the veil. And people say that, Of course, you have had the exceptional privilege, and Bharti Ben and Ansadi and many others who have had the exceptional privilege of Mother's darshan. But once Ravindraji was asked that, what is the difference between then and now? Some young person went and asked him, we have not seen the mother. He says, you are very fortunate at one sense because you seek her inside.
Yes.
We were so much... She was always there, but in the process, we just took it for granted. Yeah. And now because you feel what you miss, therefore you seek inside. It's so true,
Yes.
At one level. I mean,
These beautiful lines
Yeah.
now.
Else could he roam on a free sunlit soil with the childlike pain forgetting mind of beasts, or live happy, unmoved like flowers and trees. So man has been bitten by this divine bug. He cannot have rest and peace, and he cannot live in the inertia of the stone. And what has entered into the stone is not just some little life awakening it, but all the glory which has confined itself into that little algae and moss. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. So that glory suffers and matter in the bargain aspires. This is the fate. Because it has come for that. Often I wonder, these lines of course are reminder, how our generation and the next generation, we'll connect to the mother in every which way. And she has to carry loads and loads of humanity, one after another, with all the complexities, because she has undertaken this work. For us it's one person, one life, we have to navigate. But for her, countless. And every generation will come with a new challenge. We have now the generation next with all the hands on the gadgets. Mother can't say, I don't like this. She will accept it. And through that, carry the evolution, the next generation, through something else. And that is, if at all, the divine suffering in matter. Nalnida has written a beautiful article, Matter Dolorosa.
Yes.
It is divine suffering in matter.
Mater.
Yeah.
Mater, mother.
Divine mother.
The
yes,
divine mother
divine.
suffers.
And she takes upon herself, and Sri Aurobindo was asked this. Mother was also asked that what is this sacrifice of the divine mother and why does she suffer? Even in Savitri, the Madonna of suffering, mother of grief divine. She suffers because she takes all this load into herself. But in the bargain, she gives us the gift of aspiration. There is a contact made, and therefore she awakens in us an aspiration. So there is that power has come to suffer and to aspire. She becomes the suffering and she becomes the aspiration. And at many levels this meaning reveals itself. All suffering should open the doors to an aspiration and a yearning. That is the real solution. Mother says that suffering and its cure coexist. So if you change it into an aspiration and a longing, it is wonderful. But when you keep trying external means, it doesn't work. The infant laugh that rang through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny.
Oh, what a line.
What a line. We have to be put in the school where our teacher is Mr. Sorrow and Miss Desire. So they come to teach us and need us thoroughly till we are ready for that other school, the sunlit school of the Divine Mother, and get admitted there. That is the real school, Yesterday one child who is studying here, her parents had come, and along with the parents, their friend and his daughter. And the friend and the daughter had come for the first time. She asked them, so how are you liking it? Uncle, why I didn't study in this school? So the first question, she said, I am so happy to see that my friend is studying here, but why my father, she was cursing her father, why you didn't bring me here earlier and put me in this school? So I said, don't worry, you have another option. You can still enroll in mother's school. That is the adult ongoing education. People like us have enrolled there. So that is the sunlit school. That's a still better school. So you have a chance and an option. She said, it took a time. Then she said, oh yes, that is so true. So, man's natural joy of life is overcast and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Care and reflection burden his daily walk. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible. What a marvelous line this is.
Now he changes it.
Yeah.
The whole thing begins to change.
Yes, but still, just look at the beauty of this line. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. The same power which is prodding him to climb up to the heights also fills him with discontent for something greater, something yet higher. And, it denies him the rest of the simple animal life with its narrow strip of wants. Yes, it changes, the mood changes. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. Isn't there a line in the Life Divine, the very first page, that man's... we see today a humanity satiated but not satisfied,
Yes.
preparing to return to its primeval longings.
Yes.
And what are those primeval longings? God, light, freedom, immortality.
Yes.
Satiated but not satisfied. So we have so much, plenty to eat, so many joints, so many places where you can have comfort, pleasure, one comfort overpassing another. Satiated. We are surrounded by stuff which, you feel after a while, it's very interesting to see some of these people who have a lot of money to buy a lot of stuff, and when they go to a place to eat, they will eat very little. Satiated. You are filled to the brim, but you are not satisfied. There is something else which is like a longing inside, which is gnawing you. So, insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. This, took such strange forms. This happened in America, of course, that, after the Industrial Revolution and, downpouring of wealth and all this, then suddenly, because the youth felt like this not all, something, they felt a stir. And to explore the invisible realms, they took to drugs. Mm-hmm. Mother speaks about it, that it was just to have the experience of alternate states of consciousness. Yeah. So it broke a mold, blew off literally the head, and they were, of course, projected, unfortunately, in the vital worlds. But that itself was like something unique. So this is bound to, drive man. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. This century we will be doing it.
I see the children in Oroville.
Yeah. All over there is a need to learn.
So awake.
Yeah.
And seeking and yearning.
He becomes a mind. He becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, he grows nature's lord. This is amazing.
Yes.
That, slave at one level, the body's ties you, but inwardly a king, reminds me of the story of Buddha and the great king who meets him on the way. And he tells the king says, I am a king. He says, I too am a king. What have you conquered? I have conquered myself. Fragile, subject to death, mutation, yet nature's lord. Of course, the mother would not be satisfied with a half-hearted victory. She wants victory over matter also. But look at this inner kingdom.
Yeah.
In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. So we have these two mothers. One is earth, of which our body, mind, life are formed. She is the mother who has so far helped us. And we have the Divine Mother, from whom our souls have come. And we have to connect the two. So in us, earth aspires.
Yes.
That which is dumb and inert begins to have a voice through us. This is the depth we have. In the Vedas, they speak about these three debts. Bhumirin, the debt to earth. Devrin, the debt to the gods. And the Pitrarin, the debt to the forefathers. And this is a very superficial meaning given traditionally for all this. Bhumirin means you should do something for your village. It's not that. Bhumirin is earth has formed your body, matter, and make it a conscious instrument of the divine. So you enrich it. So when you leave the cloak, the cells will go into earth and enrich it. So that's how you pay back the debt, and not like, a titan just devour and devour. Pitrin, to the forefathers, they were also engaged in some kind of aspiration. Their outer life is really irrelevant or partly relevant, but they were engaged also in some kind of aspiration, and we have to carry that forward. Awaken it in hearts who are alive to it. That way we pay back the rin to the forefathers, the debt to and the devrin, the gods who are laboring to fill us with hope, love, joy, peace. And if we can increase that upon earth, participate and collaborate in that process, then we pay the debt to the gods. So here is matter in man becomes suddenly conscious and feels the Godhead drawing near. An eyeless power that sees no more its aim. A restless, hungry energy of will. Life cast her seed in the body's indolent mold. It woke from happy torpor, a blind force, compelling it to sense and seek and feel. That's how it starts. It's like schooling. It awakens. That prisoner begins to, stretch itself out here and there and eventually breaks from the mold. Look, Sri Aurobindo was kept in the prison. And in the prison he discovered the divine, and he has even written an aphorism like that. And there's a whole essay on prison and freedom. In that state of utter subjection, he could discover the divine bliss. So this is, because what is hidden inside is bound to come out, just like in a seed. All the tree is there in a seed and it's bound to come out.
And indolent.
Indolent.
Lazy.
Lazy.
Lazy
Absolutely.
mold of the body.
Yeah. Just refuses. And the force of life compels it to sense and seek and feel in the enormous labor of the void. Again, you see Sri Aurobindo's beautiful, arrangement of words. Labor of the void. What is the labor of that which is nothing?
Yeah.
It is to bring out that which is within it. It contains everything, but yet nothing is manifested. So look at this line, labor of the void.
It's very, very beautiful.
Yeah. Perturbing with her dreams the vast routine and dead roll of a slumbering universe, the mighty prisoner struggled for release. And it's bound to be released because it's its destiny to soar high. No power can eventually keep man forever bound to this, chained forever to this earthly mold. Last 6-7 lines. Alive with her yearning, woke the inert inert cell. Alive with her yearning, woke the inert cell. Look at this line. Even the cells began to yearn and aspire. In the heart she kindled a fire of passion and need. Pure mechanical heart, piston that pumps. But what flows through the blood is passion, need, fear, excitement, seekings, longings. Everything flows through the blood. That's why they have a direct effect. All emotions have a direct effect upon the physical heart. Because actually, heart is only a conduit to throw this central energy into the whole system. That's why you see that much more than thoughts, heart responds to emotions. The moment emotions surge up, the heartbeat also begins to surge up. The moment you quieten down, the heartbeat also becomes quieter and quieter and quieter. So that Sri Aurobindo is revealed earlier also in Book 1, Canto 2. In the heart she kindled a fire of passion and need. Amid the deep calm of inanimate things arose her great voice of toil and prayer and strife. 3 different voices of one thing. What is toil? We are seeking for something.
And inanimate, not yet given that life force.
Yes. So toil is one form, an obscure form of seeking. Prayer is another form, more conscious form of seeking. And
Strife.
strife, a third form, again of seeking. If there is no seeking, we don't experience these things. Dead matter doesn't fight with anyone. Somebody else can lift it, make it a idol, or throw it on someone else. But in itself, it's happy wherever it is. But the moment it becomes quickened by the life impulse, the game of life begins. A groping consciousness in a voiceless world, a guideless sense was given her for a road. What a challenge. Guideless sense. Thought was withheld, and nothing now she knew, but all the unknown was hers to feel and clasp. This is how life begins its journey, mighty journey. As someone has said, all the great journeys start with one infant step.
Yes.
And the infant step that the life took on the road to life divine is the worm. In the worm foresees the coming God. That's the infant step.
Yes.
It had to start from there. So we'll stop here and continue.